In this video, we'll be reviewing the Bitcoin Master MT5 Expert Advisor by Mr. Lothie Mailone. Stick around to the end to see if this is a real expert advisor worth your time or just another MQL5 scam. This video is sponsored by Prosperity Algo and our free Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Do you want to make 100+% annual returns through automating the London breakout and the opening range breakout? Then click the link in the description. So this is one of the newest bots by Mr. Low, and I always like to review his bots because he's a very good developer. He knows what he's doing. And I like to be able to understand kind of his thought process and what he's working on, as I like to get inspiration from other good developers to constantly improve my own strategies. So here, it's quite an interesting bot because he's already developed another Bitcoin bot called the Bitcoin Scalping MT5. And I made a previous review on this one. So I'm quite curious as to why this particular bot is different. And in terms of the actual strategy, he's speaking about the turtle system, which is part of the famous book which covered the turtle traders. And I'm less 100% certain as to what the particular strategy is, but it seems like he's definitely put some thought into the approach. And one thing that really stood out to me, and which we'll see in the backtest, is that it has a very good risk to reward ratio. And this could be because it's a Bitcoin specific bot. Typically, when you develop trading robots, at least with scalping systems with gold or indices, we usually see better results with an inverted risk reward system. So that's why you'll see that the losses tend to be higher than the winners, but with a high win rate. And I have found that the reason why you want this is because if you make your stop losses too tight and you don't give too much room to breathe, I find it's less consistent between the backtest and the live results. Whereas if you use more of an inverted risk reward, it gives you a bit more leeway when running backtests, and I find the results tend to be a bit more consistent. But here we're seeing a very good risk reward with a bot, which is pretty interesting. So here what he's saying as well is that he lets his profits run, which would indicate here, as well as that this is more of a long-term focused bot. As well, it also uses a fixed stop loss, and there is no manipulation, and it's very compatible with different brokers. I'm not seeing any sort of particular indication as to what exact entry signal or filters this bot is using, but curious to run a backtest to see what's going on. Usually Mr. Low, from what I've seen, tends to like more levels-based trading. He does a lot of minimum maximum breakout systems, and particular with Bitcoin, which when it hits a new high, it tends to rally quite a bit, or when it hits a low, it tends to go down pretty significantly. Most likely he's using that approach. So let's skip through here. From what I can see, the equity curve looks really this is a very honest looking equity curve. It's by no means perfect, but it's definitely, it seems like this could be a real system. Here it's a bit too good to be true, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's using 1 minute open, high, low, close, or every tick, as opposed to every tick based on real ticks, because this growth is a little bit too crazy. But we will have to actually run it to see for ourselves. And here right now, I don't think he has a live signal yet, simply because this is quite a new bot, only published a few days ago. But it would definitely be worth kind of monitoring it and just keeping an eye on it to see if we have any more interesting updates. And no comments here yet either. Okay, so here I've taken the liberty of downloading the bot and actually running a quick backtest. And here I purposely chose to run a longer backtest than I typically do, just because I didn't want to only pick a bull market period for Bitcoin. So if I picked the last few months, most likely breakout trend following systems would be doing super well. But because I wanted to kind of be able to present a more holistic review, I chose to backtest from 2022 onwards. And this is using every tick based on real ticks with Bitcoin from the 8cap broker. What we're seeing here is that this is indeed very much a good risk reward system. And the way that you can tell that is if you look at a backtest, and usually with an inverted risk reward system like a scalping bot, you see the staircase, right? So you have a long run of winners and then a big loss. Long run of winners, big loss. Whereas if you see an inverted staircase, this is usually characteristic of a positive risk reward system. So you have a bunch of little losers and then one big shot up. Bunch of losers, one shot up. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. If we look at the backtest as well, we're having a win rate of around 29%, but obviously the average profit trade is significantly greater than the loss trade at around $325 compared to $125. And then here, if we go over to the inputs tab, it can give us a bit more information how this works. We can see that it's going both long and short, which is actually a really good sign for Bitcoin, because I find that quite a few developers who are a bit less scrupulous might just pick a bull market period for Bitcoin, only take long trades, and then obviously your strategy is going to do quite well if you're only going long during a bull market. But if you're doing bi-directional trades and it works across a variety of different market regimes, that's probably a far more robust bot. And here in terms of filters, we can see that there is an RSI filter, which makes sense here. And there's also a news filter. So everything so far is looking pretty good. And low tends to make good bots, so no surprises there for now. Let me run a visual backtest here. Whoa, okay, that's a fast one. I'm curious as to how it's actually placing trades. So we see there's an ATR-based filter and there is a RSI-based filter. He also didn't give a particular time frame on which to run this. Maybe I should, let me run it on a shorter time period, because right now I'm running it on the H1. It's just not giving overly clear levels. So I'll run it on the M15. And here we go. And clearly there's a trailing stop loss here. So he's allowing his winners to run, but he's trailing it by quite a significant amount. So that's exactly what he's saying, and this is why we're having such a high risk reward. So the stop loss is going to be fixed, whereas he lets it trail by a significant margin. And there's also another order, like a pending order being placed. So yes, it's a range breakout system. So here we can see that there is a sell stop which is being placed at the bottom of a local minima. And they're placing it at maxima levels too. It's the buy stop here. It's either being placed directly at the maxima or it's being placed at a zone. From what I can see, I think it's almost exactly as the maxima. Here it is using a trailing stop loss. So yes, this type of system is very characteristic of Low. He makes most of his bots follow this approach, and this is actually a very good approach. Like range breakouts is one of the most powerful ways of trading, particularly for assets like gold, Bitcoin, indices, which tend to have these very violent, volatile movements. So how this differs from your classic system is using a very big trailing stop loss. So he's really letting the winners run for an extended period of time. And for Bitcoin, which tends to have these very large bullish moves, that makes a lot of sense. So from what I can see, the bot looks like it has a viable, good system. The equity curve is not as beautiful as I would like. Perhaps there needs to be a few more versions done here. I think Mr. Low has primarily developed bots more for gold and indices in the past. I think perhaps he's starting to kind of develop a few different systems for Bitcoin. So this bot does look very good. I think it's affordably priced, but I do think that there's still a bit of if I were the developer of this bot, I'd probably look to still be tweaking it a little bit just to get a bit more of a smoother equity curve and perhaps have like drawdowns which are a little bit less significant. But in terms of strategy, there's a strategy. It's doing what most of its bots typically do. The really interesting feature here is the very, he really lets his winners run. Like his winners can run significantly using this trailing stop loss approach. So it's quite a neat bot. And if you guys have any experience with it, please let me know. And I'd be really curious to hear your feedback. Take care.